The last nuance I'll share with you, it's difficult to share because it has to do with the Arabic language. I'm going to try my best to make it easy to understand, inshallah ta'ala. And that is that, there's two comparisons. There's a comparison in this ayah. In this ayah, there's a comparison between two relationships. Believers have a relationship with Allah, and disbelievers have a relationship with the entities of rebellion, taghut. Right? Believers have a relationship with Allah, and disbelievers with what is in Arabic called taghut, the rebellious, the extremely rebellious, which is inside and outside, as I mentioned. And the name of both relationships is the same. Allah to us is wali. The name of that relationship, on the two sides of that relationship is us and Allah. And the name of that relationship is wali. And the relationship between taghut and the disbelievers is also wali. Awliya'uhum at-taghut. It's the same name. It's the same relationship. So again, I'll repeat what I said so I can build it slowly. Two relationships are being compared. Now let me hear it from you. What's the first relationship between? Believers and Allah. And what's the name of that relationship? Wali. What's the second relationship? Disbelievers and taghut. And that relationship is also wali. Now listen carefully. I'll be done, I promise. I got to finish this point. Who is the wali in the first relationship? Allah is. Who is the wali in the second relationship? Everybody clear about that? The wali in the first relationship is Allah, and the wali in the second relationship is taghut. You with me? You know what that means? That means the dominant part. In every relationship there's a dominant party and there's a sub-party. Teacher, student, parent, child, wife, husband. I'm kidding. I had to do it. Anyhow. In this relationship, who's the dominant party? Allah, believers. In the second relationship, who's the dominant party? Taghut, disbelievers. You understand? Now what does Allah do? Allahu waliyul ladhina amanu. When Allah described His relationship, He mentioned Himself first. Then He mentioned the believers. The ayah continues and He says, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَوْلِيَاؤُهُمْ الطَّاغُوتُ. The dominant party in the second relationship is who? At-taghut. And where are they mentioned if you heard the Arabic? In the beginning or at the end? At the end. But in language there's this idea of expected sequence. So in the first case, the dominant and the secondary was mentioned. So you're expecting the second time also, the dominant and then the secondary will be mentioned. So the sequence would have been وَالطَّاغُوتُ أَوْلِيَاءُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Would have been like that. Keep the sequence. But Allah in His wisdom decides that when He was mentioned first with the believers, the taghut do not deserve to be mentioned the same place Allah was mentioned in the sentence. So they're pushed to the end. They're not even compared to Allah. There is no comparison. Not even in the language, so the word goes at the end because it doesn't deserve the same seat as mubtada. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَوْلِيَاؤُهُمْ الطَّاغُوتُ. It becomes the khabar in grammar actually. Now there's two mubtadas and a khabar. That's where grammar becomes sweet, man. That's why you gotta learn grammar. Quran becomes juicy. Seriously, you taste it. And what translation is going to communicate that? What translation? By the way, did you notice taghut all the way at the end? This ta'khir, this taqdeem, these principles. I'm not just saying that to make you feel bad. Every one of you can learn Arabic. Every one of you can. There's not a single person here who cannot. The question is whether you want to or not. That's the only question. Allah has guaranteed to make it easy. Allah, I'm telling you, I was a terrible student of the language. A terrible student in college. I'm the guy that studies the day before the exam and is okay with a 70. I'm that guy. But when I decided to study Arabic in Queens, it was like people, after a khutbah, they come to me and say, where did you study Arabi? I said, Queens. From a Sheikh al-Queenzi. It doesn't have to be exotic, guys. It doesn't have to be under a tree in a desert. It doesn't. You can learn. But I tell you, if you want to get closer to Allah's word, Allah will open those doors. Because Allah is the wali of those who believe. Allah will make it easy for you. So what if you're a bad student and everything else? Allah will make you top notch in Quran. Because you wanted to do it, because you wanted to get closer to Him, and you wanted to hold on to an anchor. You wanted to taste it for yourself. You know? That's what you wanted. I want to be able to have this conversation without explaining a word of it to you and just go straight to the Arabic itself. And everybody here understands it. And we can get there. We can get there as a people. In my previous session when I talked about set goals for yourself, I mean it. Set goals for yourself. Don't just say, oh, I can't believe it. They already reached there. I'm never going to get there. Don't think like that. Take one thing at a time. خُذْ مَا طَفَّلَكَ, the Arab says. Take what's in front of you. Pay attention. Don't lose sight of it. Don't memorize one surah and hold it up, like hold the pages of the Mus'haf like this, of the one surah you memorize, and then compare it to the rest of the pages that are left and say, oh my God. Don't do that. You memorize, this is good. Just look at the next page. Don't look at the rest of it and say, oh. You know, Hifz kids do that. They compare the thickness of the pages, like, yeah, it's getting skinnier. You know? So I was asked to share the Qur'an's perspective of darkness to light. There's a lot more that can be said about this beautiful passage. But, you know, and I didn't give you a Dars al-Qur'an in the previous session, so I figured at least I make this one a Dars al-Qur'an. Thank you so very much for listening, alhamdulillah. If you get a chance, memorize the ayat. Now that you've heard a little bit about them, memorize them, and then pray with them. Pray with these ayat in salat. They're towards the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. Find them. I don't want to tell you the ayat numbers. Find them. It's okay. Spending a little extra time with the Quran, I know it's going to hurt. It's like a root canal for some of you. But that's okay. Do it. Take the time, find the ayat towards the end of Al-Baqarah, and then sit there and as a family memorize them. That's when you walk out of a conference saying, okay, we got something out of this, that we can be closer to Allah, not just at the session, but we got closer to Quran as a result. Inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.